For centuries, Mars has captured human imagination. A distant red orb in the sky, a symbol of war, mystery, and possibility. Ancient cultures looked upon it as a wandering star with divine significance. Modern science sees it as the most likely neighbor to one day host human colonies. But behind the romance of exploration lies a darker truth. Mars is not just dust and rock. It is a planet that carries scars of cataclysms, whispers of water, and perhaps evidence of life itself. Over decades of exploration, robotic landers, orbiters, and rovers have sent back images and data that both excite and disturb. Yet some of the most shocking findings have not been celebrated. Instead, they have been quietly filed away, dismissed, or obscured from public view. The reasons vary. Some discoveries threaten established narratives about the lifelessness of Mars. Others raise questions about contamination, secrecy, or even the possibility that humanity is not alone in the universe. Governments and space agencies tread carefully, aware that a single revelation could reshape public perception, religion, and science overnight. Yet the truth has a way of emerging. Researchers, whistleblowers, and sharp-eyed observers of NASA's image archives have long pointed to anomalies. Structures that appear geometric, shadows that resemble machines, strange chemical readings that hint at biological processes. Each time, official explanations follow: tricks of light, errors in data, natural rock formations. But the suspicions remain. Mars may be silent, but silence does not mean absence. As we continue to probe deeper into its surface and atmosphere, disturbing discoveries keep surfacing, each more unsettling than the last. And the most chilling thought of all is that the world may not yet be ready to face them. The water that should not exist. One of the first major shocks from Mars exploration was the discovery of water. For years, scientists believed the planet was bone dry, a desert world with no liquid water remaining. Then orbiters began detecting signs of ancient riverbeds, dried lakes, and minerals that only form in the presence of water. Still, officials insisted that any water on Mars today would be locked as ice, frozen beneath the surface. That narrative collapsed in 2018, when radar scans from the European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter revealed something extraordinary. A massive subsurface lake of liquid water buried beneath the southern polar ice cap. Nearly 12 miles wide, the lake is not a trickle, but a body of water large enough to hold staggering secrets. The announcement was made cautiously, almost reluctantly. Official reports emphasized that the discovery did not necessarily mean life, but the implications were enormous. Liquid water is the foundation of biology. Where there is water, there is at least the possibility of microbial life. Subsequent studies deepened the mystery. Additional radar scans suggested there may be several more hidden lakes, forming an underground network. Some researchers questioned the findings, while others pointed to similar environments on Earth. Subglacial lakes in Antarctica that harbor microbial ecosystems, despite extreme cold and pressure. If Earth's hidden lakes can support life, why not Mars? Yet after the initial excitement, the conversation faded. Few updates followed, and official statements grew quieter. Was it because the evidence was uncertain, or because the implications were too great? To admit there are stable bodies of water beneath Mars is to admit the possibility of life, and that is a revelation governments may wish to control carefully. The silence around these lakes is not natural. It is deliberate. The organic molecules dilemma. In 2014, NASA's Curiosity rover made one of the most controversial discoveries in Mars exploration. Using advanced instruments, it detected organic molecules in Martian rocks. These are not random compounds. Organic molecules are the building blocks of life, carbon-based chains that form the foundation of biology. The announcement should have been groundbreaking. Instead, it was delivered with restraint, even hesitation. Officials stressed that organic molecules can also be produced by non-biological processes. They emphasized caution, repeating that this was not proof of life, only a hint. Yet behind closed doors, the implications were staggering. Organic molecules survive poorly in harsh radiation, yet curiosity found them preserved beneath the surface. This suggested that Mars once had conditions capable of not only supporting organic chemistry, but protecting it. Later discoveries confirmed that methane, another compound often linked to biology, fluctuates seasonally in the Martian atmosphere. On Earth, methane is strongly associated with living organisms. On Mars, its presence and variation remain unexplained. Why the caution? Some argue it is scientific rigor. Others believe it is something deeper. If organic molecules and methane fluctuations are connected to biology, then Mars may not be dead. It may still harbor microbial life today. Such a revelation would change humanity's understanding of life in the universe. It would shatter the notion that Earth is unique, and it would force governments and religious institutions to reconsider humanity's place in creation. Perhaps that is why the language is always softened, the discoveries framed in doubt. Every announcement is followed by downplaying. Every hint of biology is smothered beneath layers of technical caution. But the truth remains. Organic molecules are there. Methane is there. Something is happening on Mars that cannot be ignored forever. The face and the forgotten structures. Few images from Mars have sparked more debate than the famous face on Mars, captured by NASA's Viking 1 orbiter in 1976. The image showed a massive formation in the Cydonia region that resembled a human face. 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, a colossal visage staring into the sky. NASA quickly dismissed it as a trick of light and shadow, and later high-resolution images confirmed it as a mesa. Yet the story did not end there. Around the face, observers identified other anomalies. Pyramid-like structures, geometric mounds arranged in apparent patterns. Some researchers claimed the formations resembled artificial layouts similar to ancient monuments on Earth. Mainstream science dismissed these theories as fantasy. Yet the persistence of the anomalies troubled many. The human brain may be prone to seeing faces and patterns, but the precision of some formations was difficult to explain away. If natural, they are extraordinary coincidences. If artificial, they rewrite history. What made the matter more suspicious was how quickly NASA moved to shut down speculation. Officials released new images but rarely revisited the topic. Independent researchers who pressed for further exploration were often labeled as fringe theorists. The face may indeed be a mesa, yet it became a symbol of the deeper issue: what else might be quietly overlooked or dismissed? If there were artificial structures on Mars, would we even be told? Or would they be hidden, buried beneath official explanations designed to protect the status quo? The face may be stone, but the question it raises is alive. What if Mars once hosted intelligence long before Earth was ready to believe it? The skeleton in the sand. Perhaps the most disturbing anomalies on Mars are not the faces or the pyramids, but something more visceral, images that appear to show bones. Over the years, several photographs captured by rovers have circulated online, showing shapes strikingly similar to skulls, femurs, and rib-like structures. NASA has consistently explained these as examples of pareidolia, the human tendency to see familiar shapes in random patterns. Rocks, shadows, and erosion can produce forms that resemble objects we know. Yet some of these images are difficult to dismiss so easily. The proportions, curves, and structures mimic organic remains with uncanny accuracy. One image in particular, captured by curiosity, shows what appears to be a femur bone half buried in the sand. Another shows a rounded formation resembling a skull, complete with eye sockets and a jawline. Each time such images emerge, NASA insists they are mere rocks. But the debate refuses to die. If these shapes truly are bones, then the implications are staggering. They could represent the remains of ancient Martian life, long extinct, their skeletal fragments preserved in the cold, dry environment. Or they could be relics of something more shocking, evidence that intelligent beings once walked the red sands. Why, then, are these anomalies brushed aside? Perhaps because the world is not ready to face what they imply. If bones exist on Mars, then life is not only a possibility but a fact. And if life once thrived there, the question becomes what happened to it. Covered up or dismissed, the skeletons in the sand continue to haunt the story of Mars. They are silent, but silence itself can be disturbing. And one day, when denial is no longer possible, they may force humanity to confront a truth it has long feared. The strange lights on Mars. Among the most unsettling images ever captured on Mars are those showing mysterious flashes of light. In 2014, NASA's Curiosity rover photographed what appeared to be a bright glow on the horizon. It was not a reflection from the rover itself. The light seemed to emerge from the Martian ground, a vertical flare piercing the thin atmosphere. NASA offered explanations. Perhaps it was a cosmic ray striking the camera sensor or sunlight reflecting off a shiny rock. Yet the images kept coming. Other rovers and orbiters have captured similar anomalies. Brief, intense flashes where no reflective surfaces should exist. Some show beams rising from the ground, others display radiant dots suspended above the terrain. The implications are chilling. Could these lights indicate geological activity, such as sudden releases of gas or electrical discharges? Or are they something more artificial, remnants of unknown technology or processes still operating on the planet? On Earth, flashes of light in remote deserts are sometimes linked to underground phenomena, even chemical reactions beneath the soil. Could Mars harbor something similar, hidden deep below its barren crust? What makes the story more disturbing is how quickly officials dismiss these events. Reports are brief, explanations vague, and investigations minimal. Yet the lights remain unexplained, haunting the photographic archives of Mars missions. If they are natural, they demand study. If they are artificial, they change everything. For now, the lights of Mars remain unexplained, a quiet anomaly hidden in plain sight. But to those who study the images closely, they look less like accidents of nature and more like signals. Signals we are not meant to see. Magnetic anomalies beneath the dust. Mars is often described as a dead planet. Unlike Earth, it has no global magnetic field to protect its surface from solar radiation. Billions of years ago, Mars did have such a shield, but it collapsed, leaving the atmosphere thin and fragile. At least, that is the accepted story. But orbital surveys have revealed something strange. Certain regions of Mars still produce powerful magnetic fields, localized and concentrated in unusual patterns. These fields are not random. In some cases, they form linear arrangements, as if tied to ancient structures buried beneath the ground. What is generating these anomalies? One explanation is that they are remnants of Mars' primordial magnetism frozen into the crust. But the intensity and organization suggest something more. Some researchers speculate that underground metallic formations, perhaps even artificial constructions, could be responsible. Consider this: if ancient Martian civilizations existed, they might have harnessed or influenced magnetic energy for technology, much as humanity experiments with magnetic fields today. The presence of organized anomalies could point to remnants of machinery or structures long buried by dust and time. NASA acknowledges the anomalies but often frames them as puzzles of geology, avoiding deeper speculation. Yet the data does not lie. The fields are there, and they do not conform neatly to natural expectations. If Mars truly harbors hidden remains of technology, then these anomalies may be their faint electromagnetic echoes. The silence surrounding these discoveries is telling. To admit the possibility of artificial origins would be to admit that Mars may once have been home to intelligence. And that is a truth not easily spoken. The rover malfunctions that defy logic. Exploring Mars is a technological triumph, yet the planet has a strange way of resisting exploration. Over the decades, more than half of all missions to Mars have failed. Spacecraft have gone silent, landers have crashed, and rovers have malfunctioned mysteriously. Officially, these failures are explained as engineering flaws or communication errors. But the sheer number and strangeness of some incidents raise unsettling questions. NASA's Mars observer suddenly went silent just before entering orbit. No clear reason was ever found. In 1999, the Mars Climate Orbiter was lost due to a simple unit conversion error. an explanation many found embarrassingly convenient for a billion-dollar mission. The same year, the Mars polar lander failed, possibly due to premature engine shutdown, though evidence was scarce. Even successful rovers like Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity have experienced strange technical issues. Instruments shut down without cause. Cameras returned corrupted images. Wheels broke down at rates higher than expected. At times, rovers seemed to refuse commands only to resume function later without explanation. Are these malfunctions purely mechanical, or is there something on Mars interfering with our machines? Some point to radiation and dust storms, but others suspect localized electromagnetic anomalies, or even unknown influences we have yet to understand. The most disturbing aspect is how often these failures occur near regions of greatest interest. Orbiters lose contact before photographing suspicious areas. Rovers malfunction when approaching unusual formations. Coincidence is always offered as the explanation, yet the pattern fuels suspicion. If Mars guards its secrets, it does so well. Perhaps these malfunctions are accidents. Or perhaps, as some whisper, they are warnings. Whispers of microbial life beyond anomalies and malfunctions lies the central question: does life exist on Mars? For decades, scientists insisted the planet was sterile. Then evidence began to suggest otherwise. In 1976, NASA's Viking landers conducted life detection experiments. One test, the labeled release experiment, produced positive results. Microorganisms seemed to consume nutrients and release gases, just as living microbes on Earth would. But NASA dismissed the finding, arguing that unknown chemical reactions could explain the result. For years, the debate simmered. Then came methane. Mars rovers and orbiters detected fluctuating methane levels in the atmosphere, peaking in certain seasons. On Earth, most methane comes from living organisms. To explain it away, officials suggested geological activity. Yet Mars lacks known processes that could easily account for these variations. More recently, Curiosity confirmed organic molecules in Martian rocks, compounds essential for life, and the discovery of subsurface lakes added another piece to the puzzle. Taken together, the evidence builds a case too strong to ignore. Something may be alive on Mars. Perhaps not complex life, but microbial ecosystems hidden underground. Why, then, the silence? Why are findings always softened, wrapped in caution, and left to fade from headlines? Perhaps because to admit life exists elsewhere would be to change everything. It would force a reckoning with philosophy, religion, and humanity's self-image as the center of creation. Life on Mars may not be intelligent, but it is disturbing in its implications. If life arose on Mars independently, then the universe is not empty. It is filled with life, and that truth may be far more frightening than silence. Why the cover-up? If Mars hides disturbing discoveries, the greater question is why they are concealed. Why would governments and space agencies downplay water, dismiss organics, and brush aside anomalies? The answer lies in control. Revealing life on Mars would be a paradigm shift. It would force humanity to admit we are not alone in the universe. Religious doctrines would be challenged. Philosophies of human uniqueness would crumble. Power structures built on the assumption of Earth's singularity would weaken. To those who control narratives, such a revelation is dangerous. There are also practical fears. If Mars once hosted intelligent life, then questions follow. Where did it go? Did it destroy itself? Could the same fate await Earth? These are questions that unsettle not only the public but leaders themselves. Better to maintain silence than spark panic. Economic interests also play a role. Space exploration is tied to national pride, military strategy, and resource competition. To admit that Mars harbors life, or worse, remnants of a civilization, would open questions about ownership, rights, and exploitation. And then there is the unknown. If anomalies on Mars truly are artificial, then perhaps they are not remnants at all, but active. Perhaps something still lingers, watching, waiting. Such an idea is too destabilizing for cautious bureaucracies to confront openly. So discoveries are framed as curiosities. Bones become rocks, lights become glitches, organic molecules become not necessarily biological. The silence is deliberate, a shield against truths that could reshape the world overnight. But silence cannot last forever. With every rover, every scan, and every eye turned to Mars, the disturbing discoveries multiply. One day, the truth will break through, and when it does, humanity will face not only Mars, but itself. Fossils that should not exist. Over the years, rovers exploring Mars have captured images that look eerily familiar. Shapes that resemble seashells, corals, and fossilized microorganisms embedded in rock. One striking photograph shows a spiral form identical in shape to ancient marine fossils found on Earth. NASA insists these are natural mineral patterns, coincidental formations in Martian geology. But to many experts, the resemblance is too precise to dismiss. If Mars once hosted oceans, then fossils should not surprise us. The planet's dried riverbeds, sedimentary layers, and evidence of ancient seas all suggest a watery past. On Earth, life flourished in water within a relatively short geological time. Why should Mars have been any different? The real question is not whether these formations are fossils, but why the possibility is downplayed. Admitting that fossils exist on Mars would mean life once thrived there. It would no longer be speculation. It would be fact, and that truth would demand a rewriting of science, forcing us to accept that life is not unique to Earth. Some argue that the cover-up is intentional. Images are released without context, anomalies brushed aside as rocks, and findings left uninvestigated. Yet every year, more photographs emerge, and the fossil-like formations keep appearing. If these are truly remnants of Martian life, then the disturbing part is not their existence, but their silence. They tell the story of a world that once lived and then died. A warning carved in stone, waiting for us to listen. Traces of ancient technology. Among the most controversial anomalies are objects that appear mechanical. In several rover photographs, observers have identified formations that resemble gears, pipes, and even fragments of machinery. One image shows what looks like a piece of metal with a symmetrical hole, half buried in the sand. Another displays a shard with sharp, angular edges, distinct from the natural curves of eroded rock. NASA attributes these anomalies to coincidence. Rocks shaped by wind and erosion into deceptive forms. Yet human eyes are not easily fooled by symmetry and design. Nature rarely creates perfect circles, straight edges, or metallic gleams. And when multiple such shapes appear in the same region, coincidence begins to strain credibility. If true, these fragments suggest Mars was once home to a civilization capable of crafting tools and structures. Perhaps they were destroyed by catastrophe, or perhaps they abandoned the planet long before Earth's history began. The disturbing part is not just the possibility of ancient Martian technology, but the silence around it. Official statements never entertain the question, no matter how striking the evidence appears. Each anomaly is categorized as pareidolia, the tendency to see patterns, but the possibility that these patterns are real, that they are remnants of machines older than humanity itself, remains unanswered. If such technology exists, buried beneath the dust, it could reveal a story far older than Earth's civilizations. But it also raises a chilling question. If Mars had builders, what became of them? The sounds of an empty world. When NASA's Perseverance rover landed on Mars in 2021, it carried something unprecedented: microphones. For the first time in history, humanity would hear the sounds of another planet. Scientists expected silence, broken only by wind. What they recorded was stranger. The microphones captured low-frequency rumbles, whistles, and crackling noises. Some matched known Martian winds and dust devils. Others did not. Certain frequencies appeared irregular, pulsing faintly as if generated by something beneath the surface. Officials released some of the recordings publicly, emphasizing the alien quality of Martian winds. But not all sounds were shared. Whistleblowers claimed portions of the data were withheld, deemed unexplained. Were these simply equipment malfunctions? Or was something resonating within Mars, producing sounds not easily explained by geology alone? On Earth, seismic activity produces infrasonic vibrations. Machines generate hums and pulses. The unexplained Martian sounds fall somewhere in between. Their source remains officially undefined. The disturbing part is not just the sounds themselves, but their implications. Mars is supposed to be silent, a dead world. If it produces unexpected noises, then something is active. Whether geological, atmospheric, or artificial, the sounds suggest Mars is not as quiet as we thought. In the silence of space, even a whisper matters. And Mars, it seems, is whispering secrets. The shadow of alien monitoring for decades, conspiracy theories have circulated claiming Mars is already observed, not by us, but by something else. Strange anomalies in orbital photographs appear as dark objects hovering above the surface. Some researchers suggest these could be satellites, artificial probes placed long before humanity launched its first rockets. Theories gained traction when rovers occasionally captured unexplained shadows or shapes moving across the horizon. NASA attributes these to dust devils, tricks of light, or camera glitches. Yet the precision of some shapes suggests otherwise. If Mars was once inhabited, is it possible remnants of that intelligence still monitor the planet? Could ancient technology still function, watching as humanity slowly approaches? The idea sounds like science fiction, but then again, so did space travel itself a century ago. The disturbing possibility is that humanity may not be the first to explore Mars, only the most recent. If someone or something was here before, then perhaps they still are. And if they monitor us now, the question is not what we will discover on Mars, but what Mars will reveal about us. Colonization and the hidden risks. Plans to colonize Mars grow louder each year. Space agencies and private companies envision cities under domes, greenhouses filled with crops, and humans walking freely across Martian plains. But beneath the optimism lies silence about disturbing risks. Mars is not just hostile in its environment, thin atmosphere, deadly radiation, freezing nights. It may also hold hidden dangers that governments do not speak about. If microbial life exists underground, human settlers risk contamination. If anomalies truly are remnants of ancient civilizations, colonization may provoke consequences we cannot predict. The silence surrounding certain discoveries seems deliberate. Before humanity sets foot on Mars, authorities may wish to control the narrative, ensuring colonists believe they are entering an empty world. Yet the evidence suggests otherwise. Mars is not empty. It is filled with mysteries, anomalies, and perhaps even warnings carved in stone. Colonization without understanding could be reckless. What if Mars is not just a dead planet, but a graveyard of something greater?